Hello, sports fan, and welcome to the Packs for Breakfast NBA All-Star team. And what you're looking at here is the three guys that didn't make the starting rotation. So if you look at those three guys, you sit there and go, but those three guys are amazing. They are amazing. All three of those guys are amazing, but they didn't make the All-Star team. They didn't make the starting lineup. They made the All-Star team. They didn't make the starting lineup. The starting lineup is coming later. But these guys, they didn't make it. I'm sorry to say, they didn't make it. So, Chris and I and Kirk this weekend, because Kirk is our NBA super knowledge guy from the early 90s, early to mid 90s. He knows just a ton. So every card we pulled, he pretty much knew most of the people. The only one he didn't know was Allah Abdul Nabi, which I knew because I love that name, Allah Abdul Nabi. Every Sunday we open a bunch of packs of cards. Most of the time it's baseball, but we do football, and then we do, of course, you see here, basketball. Even NASCAR, we've done that. So, and we did Garbage Pail Kids, which was a horrible experiment. We'll never do that again, I promise, because that was bad. But every Sunday morning, 6 a.m. Mountain Time, 8 a.m. Eastern Time, we open up a bunch of packs of cards. This is some of the All-Stars we came up with. I think Chris Mullen was supposed to be in this, so I'm not sure what happened to Chris Mullen. But he actually will not be here. He would have been in the starting lineup if I'd have had that card. But let's start with Tom Chambers. Tom Chambers played for a bunch of different teams. He played for the Clippers, 81, and he played for the San Diego Clippers, to tell you when he was playing, 81 to 83. 83, he went to Seattle, where he played until 88. He's probably most noted for his Suns run, 88 to 93. He played with Utah from 93 to 95. Then he went to Tel Aviv. He actually went to Tel Aviv to play for a year, and then he came back and played for Charlotte in the 76ers in 1997. The one thing about Tom Chambers that is, the most interesting to me, being a Colorado native, is he went to Fairview High School in Boulder. So he did play his high school ball here. He was a four-time All-Star. He averaged 18.1 points per game, 6.1 rebounds, which for a big man seems pretty low, and 2.1 assists. He averaged like 0.8 steals and 0.6 blocks per game. Now, the reason this video will probably be a little faster, unless I can ramble on about Dikembe for a while, is the fact that it's like there's not as many interesting stats when it comes to basketball as there is baseball. You've gone through all of your stats very quickly with these guys. We'll move over to Patrick Ewing. He played 17 seasons in the NBA, most of them with the Knicks, 85 to 2000. He spent a year in Seattle, and he spent a year in Orlando before he retired in 2002. He was an 11-time All-Star. He averaged 21 points a game, 9.8 rebounds, and 2.4 blocks. Very good defensive player, came out of the John Thompson, Georgetown University era. There was a lot of controversy surrounding him when he was drafted by the Knicks, because there was a lot of people that said that the Knicks were unfairly given the first pick in the draft so that they could have Patrick Ewing. Basically, they wanted to plant one of the biggest stars coming out in a long time in college. They wanted to plant him in New York. So there was a ton of controversy. That controversy still exists to this day. It's like we've seen like LeBron end up in, Cleveland. They ended up with the first pick so they could get LeBron James. I think when there was somebody else that this kind of went to as well. But it's like there was also the time where the Memphis Grizzlies, or it might have even been the New Orleans Hornets, they lost a really, really, really good player. I think they lost Antonio Davis. And some people kind of called unfair because, of course, then New Orleans ended up with the #1 pick so they could get Zion Williams. which has not worked out well for them. But Patrick Ewing had a great career in Georgetown, had a great career in the NBA. The problem was he was in the same era as Jordan's Bulls, so it's like he always kind of ran into that. You have to wonder if, how many championships maybe the Knicks ended up with if, there was no such thing as Jordan's Bulls, because those Knicks teams were actually really good. Now we're going to move to my favorite player on this. One of my favorite all-time Denver Nuggets. My favorite Denver Nugget is Nikola Jokic. My second one is LaFonso Ellis, but Deke would probably be my third. I remember when we drafted Deke because I was also a big Georgetown Hoya fan back in the day. So I loved that we got Dikembe Mutombo. One of his first years here, he came into the Paul Westhead, where he was coached by Paul Westhead. Here's the problem with Paul Westhead. Paul Westhead coached a run and gun style of basketball, which I don't think Dikembe Mutombo is really set up to do. Dikembe Mutombo is a rim protector and a rebounder, and not really built for the fast break. I mean, he just kind of lumbers along, and so Paul Westhead was the guy coaching his team when he got in there. And I think the Nuggets organization might have gotten rid of Westhead because they thought he's not the right coach for our superstar center. And Dikembe really did take Denver by storm. I mean, it's like there were t-shirts of him. He has like a really, really long name that is like Dikembe Mutombo, Jean-Jacques, Wa Mutombo. There's like 3 or 4 other names in there too. He had a really long name. I used to have a shirt that had all of his names on it on the back, his full length name. So Dikembe Mutombo, we can get into his numbers. He was a 4-time All-Star. Or 8-time All-Star. He was a 4-time Defensive Player of the Year. And he won those in 95, 97, 98, and 01. He only averaged 9.8 points per game, 10.3 rebounds, and 2.8 blocks. The weird part is he didn't really average that many more blocks than Patrick Ewing, which tells you just how good Patrick Ewing, and was probably underrated as a defender in comparison. So Dikembe Mutombo was a very good. He used to have an ad campaign where supposedly he was supposed to be blocking a shot of Michael Jordan's in a commercial, and it just said, "Man does not fly in the house of Mutombo." And of course, he used to wag the finger, and that it's like, when he was in Denver, it was amazing. Then Bernie Bickerstaff, the worst general manager of all time, let Dikembe Mutombo go, knowing that he was going to be a free agent at the end of the season, knowing that he probably was not going to be able to sign Dikembe Mutombo, and let him go to the Atlanta Hawks and got nothing for him. It made me hate Bernie Bickerstaff with a passion. It's like I still cannot stand Bernie Bickerstaff. It was a terrible decision. Dikembe Mutombo was our star, and he was a great defensive player and a great rebounder. I don't think he went on to have that great of a career in Atlanta. He played there from 96 to 01. But Dikembe Mutombo, we could have gotten a decent haul for him because at the time he was one of the best defenders in the game, and a great rebounder. And boy, I'll tell you, he could injure a guy too, because it's like when he would pull down a rebound, elbows out, man, those sharp, pointy elbows. Ooh, buddy. I watched him hit some people right in the mouth with those things as he's swinging his arms back and forth. He was also a part of that team in 1994 that was the first 8 seed to beat a 1 seed when they beat the Seattle Supersonics. And Dikembe Mutombo was the one that secured the final rebound, and I just remember him laying on the ground, that big smile on his face, clutching the ball and hugging it. Basically, it was a great sight. It was amazing what Dikembe Mutombo was for Denver. I don't remember much of his other stuff because I still was mad at Bernie for letting Deke go. Deke played 18 seasons in the NBA, 91 to 96 with us. Atlanta, previously mentioned, 96 to 01. Philadelphia, 01 basically the 01-02 season. The Nets, he played the 02-03 season. The Knicks, 03-04 season. And then Houston had quite a long career at the end of his career from 04 to 09 with the Houston Rockets. Unfortunately, we lost Dikembe Mutombo on September 30th, 2024. He was only 58. He was still very young. So, I mean, very sad to lose him. He was a great humanitarian. He really did a lot of things for his home country. It's sad when you lose a guy like that. It's sad that we lost, a great man like Dikembe Mutombo. I don't think he ever had any controversy, and he was actually he was very smart. I think he spoke multiple languages. I think he spoke French too. So I mean, he was an amazing human being. He was such a great defensive player, such a good rebounder, and it's like, he will be missed. And that's All Star for now.